Yes, we are live, and this is day 2 of the 7 days of sacred, 7 days of rest and sacred renewal. And today is the orange chakra, and the orange chakra is about unleashing our creative energies. And here we are with Tami and the Million Vegan Grandmothers. Thank you, grandmothers, for doing this. The Rainbow Food and Rainbow People program. It's been incredible. So I see you have orange, all you have orange hair, and everything is orange today. And today we are also going to renew the pinky promise. My granddaughter basically said, "You already made the promise to me, so you go say whatever you need to say and do it." So take it away, Tammy.
I'm wondering if we want to start with the grandmother's declaration and the pinky promise and then go on to demonstrate. The orange chakra is our sacral chakra, and it is about weaving our creative energy, and it's also about allowing. So, our digestive juices, our ability to reabsorb water is all in that sacral belly chakra. And it also reminds me of such deep playfulness. And in so many cultures, we see orange as a celebration color and a color to come alive. And as I was in prayer, welcoming ourselves here today, I could smell all the orange from the essence, the peel of our citrus fruit has the essence, the essential oil, and yeah. So I would like to start this this new year as an opportunity. Beautiful Judy, hello Judy, reading the Grandmother's Declaration. Do you have the Grandmother's Declaration in front of you, also, Judy?
Yeah, I found it.
Great.
You want me to read it?
Can I read the first two paragraphs and you finish at We Believe?
Okay.
Great. Our Grandmother's Declaration, 1 million vegan grandmothers. We are the 1 million vegan grandmothers, joining together using the power of love. Love for the children and grandchildren of all beings and Mother Earth. Welcome our all, people regardless of gender, age, and official grandmother status, who align with the values of veganism and this declaration. We affirm the right of all beings to live in natural, toxic-free environments which allow all to thrive and lead sacred, liberated, sovereign, and joyful lives. The power of our love is unstoppable. We do not allow this planet and all who live here to be destroyed. Mm-hmm. We are creating a vegan world of peace, freedom, and loving kindness for all. Judy?
We believe that the true nature of human beings and our highest calling is to be kind, compassionate, nonviolent, and partners with, not dominators of, all life. We believe this is the time of the great awakening of humanity to leave behind the destructive nature of Homo sapiens and become who we have always been destined to be, Homo ahimsa. As vegan grandmothers, we are here to midwife the birth of the new compassionate human and bring in the new era of a vegan ahimsa world so that our children and grandchildren and those of all species can thrive and be free.
Thank you. Thank you, Grandmother Judy. And Judy's the author of Homo Ahimsa, Who We Really Are, and who we really are and why that matters. Is that the proper subtitle, Judy?
Who we really are and how we're going to save the world.
Oh, better. And Judy's going to be sharing a little bit about how the coined word Homo Ahimsa now that everyone is using in these circles of our remembrance. We're going to be joining together with Judy this week. So thank you. And Sailash is going to renew after 5 years as Pinky promised to his granddaughter for the next 5 years.
Yes. It is so amazing how things are unfolding. I met Judy in 2016 at the Animal Rights Conference for the first time, and she gave me a copy of her book, Peace to All Beings. And I learned the term Homo Ahimsa, and I thought it was such an amazing uh, and beautiful way of describing us, because it combines a Latin word with a Sanskrit word. So it signifies that we are coming together as a species from across the world, and it describes our character, not our characteristic. Because Homo sapiens says, "Oh, we are so wise." And you say, "What the heck? You're doing something so silly and you think you're so wise." The more you learn about what we're doing in the environment, I'm reminded of a massive systems engineering failure,
Yeah.
which is what we are doing. And every failure is an opportunity to learn. The first time I did gigabit Ethernet on copper, which is supposedly my contribution to internet, right? The first time I did it, it was a massive systems engineering failure. It didn't work because we didn't take into account all the crosstalk between the different channels and between the analog and the digital. We didn't take into account, a lot of that. And it was a massive failure. But it was a great learning experience. My God, we learned so much from that failure. So we got the chance to redo it. And then we took care of these things, and we made sure that everything was accounted for in our models. And when the second chip came out in 2003, it worked like a charm, and it was on every motherboard at Intel. And the first year alone, we sold 150 million units, and the internet took off. So the internet just took off. And uh, I'm reminded of that when I look at what's happening to our civilization at the moment. It seems like a failure, but it has been a great learning experience because we understand who we are. We understand that we are the climate regulating species of the planet. And now we know what we did that was wrong. The way we treated animals were wrong. The way we treated each other was wrong. The way we treated women was wrong. I mean, it is telling us the right way to deal with this. It's actually quite simple. When Kimaya was 5, she insisted that I take her to see Cinderella, and I thought I was taking a little girl to see a Disney fairy tale movie, and I'm going to be bored. And within 10 minutes, I realized this movie was for me, not for her, because there was something in the script, that made me wake up and say, "Wow, I have to pay attention to this." And so from that movie, I came up with the 3 Cinderella principles that govern what we do at Climate Healers. That's been governing what I do since that day onward. The 3 principles are: number 1, have courage, be kind, and all will be well. Have courage. I call it have courage now because of Viga. Have courage, be kind to all life, and all will be well. So this is simple stuff, right? The second thing she said was, just because it is what is done doesn't mean it's what should be done. Just because we have been doing things certain ways, because we have been eating in a certain way, doesn't mean we have to continue eating the same way. Doesn't mean, just because we've been doing reunions one way, doesn't mean we have to continue doing reunions the same way. Now we are, meeting on Zoom much more than meeting in person, right? So that was the second principle. And the third principle was, imagine the world as it should be and work for it instead of clinging to the world as it is. So it's what kind of world do we want, and what do we need to be doing now to get that world to happen, right? So that was the third principle. So these three principles pretty much govern what we do at Climate Healers. Everything I do, since that day forward. Um, and the Pinky Promise happened a year later. So a year later, I had just read the World Wildlife Fund Living Planet report, which said that between 1970 and 2012, we had wiped out 58% of all wild animals by weight. And it was 52% just 2 years ago. But in 2010, it was 52%. And by 2012, it became 58%. At that rate, we are on track to hit 100% by 2026. So I just made that calculation. We are on track to kill all the wild animals off by 2026. What the heck? We better take action very, very quickly. So that was going through my mind. And then I was reading a story to Kimaya in bed. My job was to put her to sleep, by the way, put her to bed. And I was reading a story to her. And that story I read was Ruby Roth's book. That's Why We Don't Eat Animals. So at the end of the story, she asked me, "So, Grandpa, who are the first human beings?" And I have promised her that I'll never ever lie to her. So I said, I'm going to tell you how it happened. Okay, so imagine that you're standing on the street and you're holding your mama by your hand, and you ask your mama to bring her mama to stand by her side, and so on. And you create a long line of mothers on this side of the street. And on the other side of the street, you ask a chimpanzee to do the same thing with her mother and her grandmother, and so on. By the time these two lines go from Phoenix to Tucson, they would merge, because both lines are going to say, "Hey, that's my mama too." Immediately, she just sat up in bed and she said, "What? Are you telling me that animals are my family?" And I said, "Yeah, now that you put it that way, they are your family." Because honestly, I hadn't put it together like that. She saw the connection right away. She saw the idea that the whole world is one family. It became visceral for her. For me, it was still an idea in my mind. It wasn't visceral until she pointed it out. She said, then she started bawling. She said, "Why are people eating my family, Grandpa? Make them stop. They're eating my family. Make them stop." And so I realized that I had created a world full of monsters for my granddaughter, because she's seeing these people eating her family around her. And I told her, "Kimaya, this is what I do. In fact, I'm trying to make them stop. It's my job to make them stop." And once I said it's my job to make them stop, I think she had never heard my job description before. So, so she just stopped crying. She looked at me wide-eyed. She said, "What? This is your job? This is your job? You haven't done your job. So when will you do your job?" And I said, "I better do it by 2026. Otherwise, we are all in big trouble." And she said, "Will you promise me that?" And I said, "Sure, I'll promise you that." She said, "Will you give me a pinky promise?" And I had no idea what it meant. I said, "Okay, I'll give you a pinky promise." She said, "Hold out your pinky." And I held out my pinky, and she locked her pinky in mine, and she said, "You can never, ever break a pinky promise." And then she put her head on my shoulders and went to sleep. And I realized at that point that I had made a very serious promise to a little girl, and I better figure out how to keep it. So that's when the Vegan World 2026 project was born. But honestly, didn't know how to do it, because it's such a vast problem, right? So how do you deal with social, cultural, traditional issues, and simultaneously deal with the engineering side of it as well, right? So to me, it was just I was just jumping in without knowing what to do, and I started going around and talking to people about it. And it's been this conversation that has helped put things in my mind as to how would we go about actually implementing this. And so the 7 um, strategic actions that I came up with is really a systems engineering 101 type thing, right? That I did, how to get to a vegan world, the 7 strategic actions. First is, of course, education, education, education. And that's what we are doing here. That's what, just talking to people, getting a conversation going around this. And the second thing is precisely what you're doing now, which is ensuring that healthy vegan food is easily available to everyone and that everyone has access to health. Okay? It's a fundamental right. And so this is why I'm so grateful to you, to the Million Vegan Grandmothers, for hosting this and for making this happen. Um, so I'm going to renew my promise to Kimaya that I'm on it. I'm still working on it, and I'm not going to ever give up. And I have a better idea of what to do now. So we are going to start a model. So we're going to be working on a model, just like the Club of Rome did a model for how the current civilization is going down the tubes. I'm going to create a model for how the new civilization is going to take off. We need to do that. How do you create a new system, a new civilization in which all the loops are closed? So we don't throw things away. There is no landfill, which is sitting there and burning away. There are no toxic chemicals being thrown out. I mean, toxicity is really a matter of concentration. Anything that's highly concentrated becomes toxic. Even water, if you drink too much water, you're going to die. We know that. So toxicity is a matter of concentration. So it's about creating flows in a civilization where things don't concentrate in one place. Okay, so, and includes money. Money shouldn't be concentrating in one place either. That's also toxicity. So it's about creating flows. It's about creating water flows, material flows, money flows, and everything, and creating a model for that and showing people, hey, if we lived like this, look how amazing it could be. And that is the world of Homo Ahimsa. And and today I feel the creative energy coming out, that I'm ready to go. And this is what I do. Modeling is what I did first, even for building Gigabit Ethernet. I modeled it first, and then I ensured that what I built matched what I modeled. So with that, I'm going to leave the floor to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Sadash. Thank you, Kamaya. And thank you to all of our grandchildren, Judy, all of our grandchildren that, wow, that are here to show us that our work matters. Judy and I have had this conversation about how so many elderly people, grandmothers and grandfathers, don't know their purpose at a certain point. And maybe they're put away somewhere. And I don't know, Judy and I and all the other grandmothers speak about being the most purposeful right now in our lives with our wisdom. And so it's calling on all the grandmothers and all the grandfathers and all the children and grandchildren to join and to remember that we're here together to work. It's so many cultures, the grandmothers were held in very high regards. And in the North American culture, that is not the case for many, many people. So we're coming forward to invite all the grandmothers to come back and understand how valuable their contribution is right now with their wisdom, and to remember that we're here as Homo Ahimsa beings, and remembering how we're going to save the earth, and remembering how we're going to save, well, the earth will be here. Remember how we're going to save humanity, really. She'll be here without us. So part of my work is making it really super simple for people to be well hydrated and electrified and full of living food and nourishment. And today we're working in conjunction with the 7 days of rest and sacred renewal with Dr. Shelley Ostroff and Jan Golding. And my contributions to that group that's going on until the 7th, really inviting people to start the new year renewing themselves so that they can go forward. Yeah, so here we go. Oh, I'm really excited to be here today. So So orange, the playful color, the chakra color, the sacral chakra, where we reabsorb. Very few of us are hydrated enough. So we're going to start out with a nice electron-rich water in the morning, the memory of some amazing citrus food. Today we're going to do the orange chakra. I'm just going to put a little piece of lemon in, and it's organic, so I'm going to add some of the peel. If we want to really give the flavor and energy of citrus fruit, buy organic and use less, and keep a bit of the peel where the essential oil, the zest is. Not too much, but enough. And you'll need to use very little of the citrus to get the bang of the beautiful essence of the fruit. So I'm just going to use a small piece of lemon today in our infused water. I'm going to use a whole organic mandarin orange, a couple pieces of apple, optional. And today I'm going to use a little piece of fresh orange turmeric. Showing you this turmeric, and I want to talk about the power of the beauty of food. Look at this lemon. Can you see the water drops in the lemon and the seed? We do not want to buy food that doesn't have seeds. Seeds are life. And the majority of the seeds we can eat, I don't de-seed most of my stuff that I put in my blender. Isn't that beautiful? Look at this orange, full of living water and life. Water droplets. And look at this beautiful orange pepper. Who told us we had to remove seeds? There's very few seeds that are toxic, like too many apple seeds we don't want to eat. But the majority of the seeds we can use in our food. We don't have to omit them. Unless they're really, really coarse. Just want to show you this ginger root. Beautiful energy of this ginger root. So here we go. We're going to make infused water. We have an orange, a couple of pieces of apple, a little piece of a lemon with a little bit of the rind left on, or the zest of the lemon. And I'm going to add a liter of structured water. We're going to just blend this and do the happy blender dance. Our olfactory, our sense of smell, is one of our most ancient memories. Oranges, just lemon, citrus. I should be living in California maybe with all the love I have for citrus, but I eat very seasonally when I can grow. Look at this. I'm straining this. There's just going to be a little bit of pulp left. I'm straining this because the first couple hours of the day we're in a really big detoxification. And if our body doesn't have to digest fiber for a couple hours, and we can give it some liquid love. And I call this infused water. I'm giving it the memory of the structured water of the lemon and the orange and a little bit of turmeric. And oh, I wish I could pour a glass for everyone in celebration, but I invite you all to make the different chakra food. There's a recipe book provided for you with all the ingredients you need for each day. Oh, just that tiny piece of turmeric. When you buy organic fruit and vegetables or biodynamic or stuff that's been not chemically sprayed or altered or genetically modified, the power of it, the zest of it is really full on, really beautiful. I'm going to take this pulp. I'm going to add it right back to my blender because I'm going to make a creamsicle. So this is one of the most favorite drinks. Almost everybody that comes, including my grandchildren, they ask me to make a creamsicle. And the reason why I'm so in love with creamsicles is because I loved the ice cream creamsicles when I was a child. And I realized that everything that I love the taste of or the essence of, you know, that was maybe in chemical form as a child, that would give me bad stomach aches. I always had ear infections as a child, which was undiagnosed dairy allergy, which is almost 100% across the board. The truth for a lot of children that get a lot of ear infections, it's dairy allergies, because we're not meant to be drinking a baby calf's milk, both energetically and physically. But before I make this creamsicle, I'm going to demonstrate for you the easiness of making your own nut or seed milk. You can use the nuts and seeds that are local for you. We grow a lot of hemp here, so this is a beautiful unprocessed hemp. You can see the green in it and the white. And hemp, when babies, for whatever reason, can't get enough breast milk, or there's no breast milk sharing, and of course we never ever want to use dairy for babies. There's so much linked to health issues, plus the cruelty. Hemp offers the omega nourishment for babies, along with a couple other things. So I'm using half a cup of hemp hearts. You don't have to soak the hemp hearts. These sunflower seeds, because they're local, have been soaked. I soak them overnight or even for 4 hours. And then I rinse them, because most seeds and nuts have something called phytic acid. It's an enzyme inhibitor. So I'm adding that. And I'm adding 1 liter of water. So here we go. I'm adding 1 liter of water, and I'm going to blend this. And I'm not even going to strain these seeds, because this is what I'm going to use. This water I blessed. I give it messages. I sing to it. I play 528 hertz music, because I'm going to use this milk for my creamsicle and also for our squash soup. So here we go. So here's some hemp and sunflower milk. Really smells like hemp. Yeah. So now I have my creamsicle with my pulp. I'm going to add a couple mandarin oranges, organic. I soaked some dates. Then they're a little easier to blend up. So here's 3 dates. My grandchildren like the creamsicle a little smoother and creamier, so I add usually just half a banana. We don't need too much sweet unless we're physically really active, so we have to watch out with too much sugar. The program that I studied was a little less glycemic index, but if we're going to drink this creamsicle and play with our grandkids, I'm going to be going out tobogganing actually with them. We finally warmed up a little bit here in Canada. And here's a little piece of turmeric I'm going to add, but that's optional. The other thing I really want to talk about is the power of cinnamon. Cinnamon is a blood sugar regulator, and it can be used in everything. It is so medicinal, cinnamon. I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon to my creamsicle today. You need to buy your herbs and your spices if you're not growing and culturing them yourself, non-radiated, because when they come across the border, almost all of them are radiated or processed in a way that they don't have the medicine in them anymore. I found a place called Home Foods in Canada that distribute. I'm going to put 2 cups of milk in my smoothie. Here we go, my creamsicle smoothie. And I think that's it. I'm just going to blend. And you can add ice to this if you want it a bit colder. I'm in Canada right now, so I don't want my creamsicle ice cold. I want it at room temperature, so it doesn't make me feel too cold. It smells like a creamsicle. So after I spend my first couple hours drinking my infused water, today orange, I'll put this in the fridge for a couple hours. I store everything in glass liter jars or quart jars or half liter. And then literally you have like a salad to go or a smoothie to go or some infused water to go, or just maybe you're in the middle of a work day. I hope you make this at home. Before I make the squash soup, I want to talk about jar sprouts. I sprouted this mixed bean. Almost every almost every bean will sprout. There's a few beans that we shouldn't use. But today we're going to talk about this sprouting mix that there's a sprouting company at the province over called Mums, M-U-M-S, sprouting.com. Sprouting is so easy, and I'm going to invite you all to soak some mung beans overnight. And if they're non-GMO, if they're organic mung beans, they should sprout, even if they don't say sprouting mung beans. Or you can just buy sprouting seeds. Mung beans will sprout by the time we go on to our green day. They'll have started to sprout. So if you soak them overnight, and then the next morning rinse them, put them in a jar, and you're going to leave it at about a 45-degree angle, either in your drain tray or a bowl. A bowl will keep them at a 45-degree angle, and you're just going to rinse them a couple times a day. This is just door screen, and an elastic rather than an expensive sprouting jar lid. Rinse them twice a day, and then within a couple days, I'm going to have a jar full of mung sprouts. So I'm inviting you all to find some mung beans today if you can, start soaking them. And then on our green day, we're going to talk about adding lots of fresh food to our salads, to whatever we're eating. So I have my same blender. And this is why I love to teach this way, because I want people to know how easy it can be. Okay, so we're still using the same blender. We don't have to wash it out in between because all of this food goes well. That little bit of lemon zest, a little bit of orange zest will really, really add to the flavor of the soup. I cooked a few carrots and squash because we're making a nice orange squash. In my roast pan, every 4 or 5 days, I don't eat a lot of cooked food, but every 4 or 5 days, I roast a whole bunch of stuff at once to conserve the energy. So I have some potatoes in there from my garden. I have my carrots, sometimes a couple beets, and a squash or two. And then I take out what I need to make a soup or a salad or any of that and add a whole bunch of raw food to it. So I have about 1.5 cups of squash and carrots, or you can just use squash. I'm going to take some celery. Celery is such a beautiful natural salt, and I'm going to take some cut up pieces of celery. I love it when I cut my celery on this angle. Isn't that gorgeous? Yeah, the beauty of food. I'm going to add some more turmeric, a little bit of fresh turmeric. And again, that's optional. Go with the herbs that you like. What I really love for my squash soup is cumin. And this cumin, this organic, non-radiated cumin. And then I have some turmeric in here, and I also have some cinnamon. Yeah. Now for flavor, for a little extra flavor, you can add a teaspoon of miso. I like this organic soup veggie broth. Non-organic doesn't have any of, like, you don't want to use OXO cubes or anything, full of MSG and salt and chemicals. But I have a nice little organic one here that's just going to give me a little extra flavor. I'm going to put that in. And I'm going to use the rest of the milk that I made. I want to show you something quickly. I wasn't watching my carrots that I was steaming this morning. You never want to cook anything without water. When you cook anything at a high temperature without water, you're roasting it in the oven without the water. The browning effect on food, so this is some carrots that I didn't watch. The browning effect on food, and you know, people like those crispy kind of French fry, kind of flavored stuff, creates something called acrylamines. So you always want to have water as part of your food when you're cooking it. In your roast pan, you want to have enough water so that it's always circulating through your vegetables. Because as soon as they don't have water, and people love that brown crunchy, that creates acrylamines, and the body does not know how to break down acrylamines. The other thing I would like to share about using squash and carrots, when I was first healing Crohn's and colitis, I studied something called a monosaccharide diet, which means single sugars. When the bowels are really inflamed, the bowels can't break down. What happens is we have these little villi in our intestinal lining, and when they're inflamed, there's a lot of mucus, and they usually get flattened, and they're not doing their job, and they can't digest disaccharides or trisaccharides, double or triple sugars. Squash, carrots, fruit are all monosaccharides, very, very easy to digest. Stuff that's heavier in starches like flours and potatoes for a little while, they might be really hard for the body to break down. So that would be another thing if we're struggling a little bit with digestive issues, to look at monosaccharide food. The other thing with the orange chakra is the bowels love squash. So think about all of the food that has different shape. The squash has all kinds of shapes similar to a bowel. Or walnuts are really good for the brain. And if you cut a walnut open and slice it sideways, it looks like the brain. So think about that when it comes to food, and integrate that, and meditate on that. Yeah. Because different food offers us different things for different parts of the body. So here we go. We're going to just blend our squash soup. Here we go. It's nice and thick. It's going to thin out a bit when we go and heat it up. So heat that up later for dinner. I have my grandchildren coming over for like holiday celebration. So I'll heat that up in a pot. You can thin it out a bit more if it's too thick. Most people love really, really, really thick soup. I shared a message that was given to me a couple of years ago, meditating on the mountain in 7 days of rest and sacred renewal. I'll receive today, and I know that we're all connected. And the image is a woman. So if you haven't joined 7 days of rest, please join. The link is available on Rainbow Food, Rainbow People. And the image is a woman who I know now to be one of my soul sisters, called Rippling Water Woman. And I was asked to share this as a message of hope to the world. So I'll end this orange chakra with this. So there is a time not too far away when we no longer fight wars that don't belong to us. When love will feel more familiar than pain. And when our hearts will be healed enough that we no longer project our wounds onto another. There is a time not too far away when we see blessings everywhere. In the water, in the food, in a stranger's eyes. When I know our children will hear more kind words that day than any other. And when we all know we have the power to heal, and we honor the power of love instead of the love of power, there is a time. Thank you, grandmothers. Thank you, grandfathers. Thank you, grandchildren. Namaste, vegan.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Judy, did you want to say anything before we close?
Yeah, that reminded me, what Tami just read reminded me of another Native American, I think it was a poem actually. I don't have it in front of me, but it was the woman's grandmother speaking to her, and she was saying to her granddaughter, if you can see, she said, look out there, looking out at the fields and the hills. And she said, if you can see anything that is unbeautiful, tell me. And if you can see anything that is unbeautiful, I will remove the veil from your eyes. And I love that so much, because it basically tells us there is nothing that is unbeautiful. And we need to be looking for the beauty in everything. And so it really went well with what you were reading, Tami. I just really love that. So thanks. Yeah. And I guess I was going to say a little more about Homo Ahimsa. That the word ahimsa means non-harm, and literally, and in Sanskrit. And so, what the point of saying we are becoming Homo ahimsa, we are leaving behind our Homo sapiens ways, which have caused so much destruction. And but the truth is that we've always been Homo ahimsa. We just need to look inside and find that true knowing of who we are, and that takes some work for all of us. I loved again what Tami was reading about the knowing that there's not projecting out our own pain onto others, and that's part of the work for sure. We all have a lot of inner work to do while at the same time we're doing all this outer work. So it's nice to be with you both today. I just really loved seeing you. So thanks.
Thank you both. Thank you very much, grandmothers.
We'll see